There are several different building forms or proposed forms that we're working with in both the EM1 and Advanced Revit courses. And so I wanted to take a minute to talk to you about using the mass modeling to create these. Some people have already finished. So when you look at these forms, you can think about creating a mass model and using reference planes to draw on the face of that reference plane. So here in this example, there is a vertical reference plane. That line and this ellipse can be created on, and then use create form to create your shape. At the end of the video presentation, I will talk to you about how to create these diagonal mullions, which is a part of the advanced class, and customizing those grid lines. If you look at some of these forms, even this tallest building in Dubai, you can create the 2D geometry on that flat horizontal reference plane and then use create form to create here these extensions. Even in something as simple as this, you can create this shape on a reference plane and extrude it, or use create form to give it that depth. So most of these are pretty straightforward. Uh, this one example, you can use regular floors and edit the profile of that floor along with here a tower of just regular curtain walls. So you might not have to use the massing for this one. It doesn't have to be this tall. This one also, you can use the blend tool, which is sort of like the loft in AutoCAD. Very similar. You create here on different levels or reference planes your box or that shape, and then like this one would be different over here, and then rotate that geometry so that the tower rotates with that geometry rotation. And you can go back to the modeling presentation and see that we did, some of that kind of creating sections and generating a blend. Sometimes, like in this example, you may create a void. A void is right underneath create form, and it helps you to subtract the geometry. So this hole could be a void, or you could actually draw two pieces of geometry and use the cut tool, which is in the mass modeling, to cut one geometry out of the other. So very similar to the AutoCAD and Rhino and other programs for creating here unique forms. Same thing with this one here. You may have 4 different levels, and on each one of the 4 levels you have a different set of lines that makes this 2D geometry, and then use the create form to create those forms that are on different reference planes. So you can see that a lot of these are profiles that are either on a vertical reference plane or horizontal. This one, for example, it's a profile that's extruded, or we're creating using create form. Some of these become a little bit more challenging when you take a box and you can click on the corner of that box and kind of pull it into this form. We did that in the modeling presentation also. Okay, so we do have the tools to work with them. Even in some of the more advanced courses, we have that sweep. So if you're going to create this building here, you could create a vertical or use a vertical reference plane to create this initial shape, and then along that shape create a sweep that would be this section through. If you were to cut this section through, it would kind of be a longer um, slot that would then sweep along that path. So we do have examples. I'm going to do this one in this presentation, and also this one here, just to give you an idea of creating your midterm. So when you create a mass model, you can hold your control key and your shift key down and then highlight a reference plane, hold your left mouse button down and drag it up to create a second or a third horizontal or vertical reference plane. And so use the vertical and horizontal reference planes to create your profiles. In this example, I'm not creating it exactly like the photo, but it's going to be very similar, and that's what I said. Or get it close. If you wanted to slightly tweak it, that'd be okay too, but ultimately in your portfolio, you're going to have the photo next to your image. So here, just like in AutoCAD, you can create a rectangle or shape based on which face is highlighted. So right now the reference plane is highlighted, but notice here that I have to make sure that I'm on that flat surface, that XY plane in AutoCAD. Now I can create here the form. I am able to create here these two towers from these rectangles, and using those small control grips, you can see where the two towers line up. Select the face of the top of the tower. Be careful you don't have the edge there. You can use the tab key to tab through the different elements until you get to the face. And so in AutoCAD you have the UCS icon, that little XYZ icon. Here you can highlight this face and make sure that the face is highlighted before you click to draw the rectangle. You can create solid forms from the geometry that you draw on the face of another form. Very similar to AutoCAD and other software with different names of tools like subtract instead of void, or cut. And here, if you have in AutoCAD your allow and disallow UCS on in the status bar, you can draw right on the face. Here in Revit, we are automatically able to draw right on the face of the solid. And so in this example, I'm showing you that when you extrude the face, it will automatically read the geometry of the existing planes. And so in this case, I'm able to take these faces back until they line up and they kind of snap into place to clean up this corner. I took the bottom part up, and I took here the ends back. Okay, we can use the join geometry tool, sort of like union, to join these solid models together so that it's all one model. And going back to the void, that would be similar to using the Boolean command called subtract in other programs. So here we're using join and cut, or we're using then those voids. Okay, so there are other ways of creating reference planes. So in this case, I could have created a reference plane that was at an angle to angle this back a little more, but I think that this is the basic form here. You can start a new Revit project and I'm using the architectural template here. And here's your control tab. Control tab will help you to tab back to your family file there and load it. I normally set up the 3D view so that when I load the family into it, I'm automatically in that 3D view. So I loaded the mass model, and I can use the curtain system tool in either the architecture tab or the massing and site tab to create the system by selecting the face of the 3D geometry and then picking create system. I'd like to show you how to, in this example, create a reference plane that will be at an angle. If you would like to increase the reference plane just to see it, although it goes the full distance, you can drag one of those little control points over. And so here I'm creating an ellipse as the base for the form, and then selecting it and using create form to create the solid form. But now I'd like to cut it off at an angle. And so the reference planes that come with Revit are vertical and horizontal. But if I highlight this vertical plane and I click here plane, I can then create my own reference plane. And you see I can use the specific angle to create a plane that kind of cuts off that shape, or cuts through that shape. And now I'll create another solid on top of it, and I'll use the void. So I'm actually selecting here that reference plane and using the viewer like we used in the 3D modeling presentation to draw in the viewer so you can kind of see it a little bit better as kind of a top view. So I'm drawing a larger ellipse so that when I select it, I can use void to create a void, and it cuts off that top part. And now I'll go back to the viewer to create the actual geometry that I need for the roof, which will be just a little bit bigger than the base. And when I use create form, to create that form, I'll use the temporary dimensions to make it a little bit smaller. And now I've got my mass model that I need for that project. Okay. I'm going to also show you very quickly an advanced feature that is kind of an intro in this course and is included in the advanced course, in how to customize your panels of your curtain wall system and create unique mullion designs. So what you would start with is the mass model, and then if you select this face and pick divide surface, the divided surface is based on the U and V grids. So I have it right now set up as 12, but you can change the distance also. But over here in the type selector, you have different patterns that you can use. So here's one that has the diagonal pattern, but now that's only changing it in the mass model and not giving it any geometry, like this one has some geometry. So the next step would be to create here geometry that's within that panel. And this could be for just a regular divided surface rectangle. What we would do is start a brand new family, and the family is called curtain panel base. That that curtain panel base family is by default, when I select it, the rectangle. But what I could do then is change it to this one that's diagonal and start to customize here that one panel that will take on the whole system, wall system. I'm going to use Control Tab to go back to this one to show you that I was able to select it, pick it in the type selector, and then what I did was I used the sweep command to place one here point element, which we did in our 3D modeling presentation, and then I created a profile, which was this rectangle, and it kind of swept all the way around this shape. And then what I could do is create a rectangle inside of it, and that would be a panel, and that panel can have any unique shape. And this is how we get to creating unique panel forms, like the Arab Institute in Paris and other unique buildings that have patterns. And then you can apply material, a glass finish, or a solid shapes to that geometry. So once you create it, you then load it, but you don't load it into the project. You load it into the family that you're working with. So I was working with this family 1. Once you load it, you can select the face that has that divided surface, and down in this drop down in that same category of this grid, you'll find that geometry that you created for those individual panels, and it'll carry through to all of the panels. And when you load it into the project, then you do have this solid geometry that becomes a part of your project. So let me know if you need help with any of the modules in this course and creating your midterm project. If you decide that you have an interest in a different building and it's not one that's already being used, then don't hesitate to show me what it is, and I'll be able to work with you. Okay, have fun and keep in touch. I'm here to help you.